What's up, guys? Casey and George back with the Going Bracket Racing YouTube channel as we are every single week, every single Tuesday. Don't miss it. 5 Eastern, 4 Central, 3 if you're out there on the left coast out there where they just got done with the spring fling a few weeks ago. But, of course, we got to thank those sponsors. First thing we do all the time whenever we get into the Going Bracket Racing YouTube channel, we always thank those people who make GBR possible. TSR Racing Products, Champs Performance Parts. Use the code GBR over there. Champ will give you a little bit off your order over there. BRG 3D Printed Parts, Syntex Printing out there in Temple, Texas. Driven Racing Oil, you can use the code GBR10. Get yourself 10% off like our buddy Dylan Champion did the other day. Got some of that in Brandon Lane's vehicle. By the way, that Driven Racing Oil was in that car whenever he won over there at Galat last weekend. Proform Parts, get your carburetors, get your alternators, get your starters, get your rocker arms. We could keep on going on, but you can visit proformparts.com and see for yourself. And Crew Chief Pro Software help you out on those blind runs, man. Help you out with those weather swings. You got a tornado coming in, Crew Chief Pro will tell you you got a little bit of a headwind, going to slow down about a tenth.
Either that or run. You better get out of here.
Man. You know what I need to do, man? I got to shout somebody out, man. I got to shout out Tony and the soon-to-be Kim Champion getting married in August, I believe. So congratulations to both of them. And, George, you met Dylan. His dad's even taller than him. Can you believe that?
I can believe it. Hang on a minute here. It's saying they don't have sound, so that's not good. One of those technical difficulties coming in here right off the bat. Let me see if I can't solve it real quick. But we'll keep going there. And I definitely know Champ, and that's a pretty cool little guy there. If you got sound now, chap one in the chat if you can there. I feel like I've got it live here, but not sure it's coming out to you guys.
Yeah, man, it looks like we got it over here on the YouTube side anyway. I know Alan Boykin will tell me if we got the sound up over there in the chat. So, Alan, tell me if we got the sound or not.
Well, they're saying
it looks like we do. All right, cool, yeah. Man. So, you know what? We might as well just get into this, man, because Danny Waters Jr., multi-time IHRA champion, fresh off a Galat Motorsports Park 500 victory, and it's not the 500 that you're talking about. Danny, do you remember what I'm talking about right now? Just a little inside joke in the staging lanes.
Yeah, I'd let you tell it.
So we're sitting here. It's actually we're over here talking to. So this is the first time I saw Brandon's new car. So he got that new door car. I'm over here looking at it, and I'm giving him hell over here because we got some GBR stickers on it already. And Brandon's real particular, you know. And I'm like, man, good thing I designed these stickers just so they would match this particular car. And all of a sudden, we saw Danny drive by. And then we see Danny drive by again, and he parks over here, and then he parks over here. And this is a slow weekend, man. Everybody's racing everywhere. So it wasn't a packed, typical Galat parking lot. And we're like, man, what is Danny doing? Dylan looks at me and he says, he must be running the Galat 500 or something because he's parking everywhere. So, Danny, tell him the story of why you had to park in 16 spots.
Well, only actually pulled in a couple. I didn't have my RV this weekend. We took the 2500 pickup truck, and I can cheat the system just a little bit with my motorhome. When I got it, I used the leveling jacks and get things up a little bit, and that Gold Rush trailer's got a flat floor, so it's real easy to unload, but I need all the help I can get when I get that 2500 out there. So I wanted to find the right spot to make it easy. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't really necessary. I don't believe in good luck parking spots, but I believe in easy, get in and get out. So we kind of made a few extra laps before we made it count.
I heard that. I try to do that myself. I haven't been drag racing very long, and I'm getting a lot better at moving the trailer around the pits here and there. And I always tend to pick the easiest spot to exit from. Easy to get into, but it's got to be easy to get out at the same time, in my opinion. So definitely, you might catch me making a lap, Casey, maybe 5-6 times before I actually pull into a spot too. You do it too. Don't lie. You've done it, Casey.
Hey man, it's a lot. My trailer's 60 foot long from the back bumper to the front of the truck, so I need a couple tries.
The whole world should be able to go to Galat and actually have the option to ride around before they park. That's always a fun thing.
Hey, that might not be the case next week. You guys head out to the spring fling. You might be parked on the road.
It's going to be packed out. It'll be a packed house, no question.
Yeah, that's a true statement, man. So let's get off into the show. Going Bracket Racing followers, we thank you guys for joining in. Make sure to hit that share button, that like button. We're going to start it off as we always do when we have a guest over here at Going Bracket Racing with the question to Danny. How did you get into bracket racing, Danny?
So, my history runs very deep, very deep in the roots. Most folks, I guess, come up in it. You do have a handful that started it new. My particular scenario, my dad raced every single solitary weekend, local bracket racer. A lot of times they would race on Friday nights at New Bern Motorsports Park, Saturday night at Coastal Plains, New Bern, Kinston, and Jacksonville. Those were the 3 tracks. So he was always somewhere doing something. I remember it was actually Kinston that ran on Sundays. My mom would make me go to church, and I would be like in the car changing clothes on the way to the racetrack just so I could get dressed and ready to go there. I actually made my first pass down Kinston drag strip. My dad has a photo somewhere. It actually was on Luke Bagaki's website, the original This Is Bracket Racing.com. I was fortunate enough to be one of the original instructors when that came out, and my dad had a 63 4-door Chevy 2. Before Kinston even had guardrails, I had made my first pass. I think I was 8. So it was a natural thing for me to want to do. My dad, somehow or another, coming up through the ranks, won a practice tree. We really didn't have a whole lot of money, but somehow or another he won a race or a raffle or something. We ended up with this full-size practice tree, and it ended up in the living room. So like day after day, I was just hitting this practice tree with the old thumb wheel buttons on it. And when I got old enough, actually I kind of wiggled my way into a Super Pro or Top ET car when I was 15 years old. I had a learner's permit in North Carolina, which at the time looked like a driver's license. It was not, you really couldn't tell it too much, but Chip Johnson always gives me a tough time, and I ended up beating him at a B&M race at Rockingham, and I was 15 at the time. Had anybody known that, I would have probably got my tail kicked out or something, but started out, man, and just it's in my blood. It's a way of life for me. I know it's like PJ North says, right? It's a way of life. It just is.
That's true, man. And like we started this entire episode off with, multi-time IHRA champion. What was your best year in racing? If you had to pick just one.
If I had to peg one, it would certainly be 1998, and that's taking it way back. But I would also very, very closely rank it with 2007 or 8, whichever one it was, 2008. So those two are very comparable. 98, I won the IHRA World Championship in hot rod. I had just come off of a double up in 890 and 1090 in 97 at the Snap-on Finals. Which was kind of unheard of. At the time, I was the youngest driver to have ever done it until Scotty Stillings comes right back, and he won up to me, a few races after that. And so we had a pretty solid time. I was really, really driving good. I think we won 3 or 4 national events that year. We won out in points races, had a perfect score in divisional races. I think it was 5 you could claim, and we had all 5 wins. And I think the worst race I had was something stupid like a semi. It was ridiculous, and had won a lot of bracket races. But again, equally, if you go fast forward to 2008, I won the championship that year and also won the Moser Shootout and just won the Winter Series at KDS, and just lots of great memories to think about. Those 2 seasons in particular really stand out the most when I look back at it.
Now, speaking of winning national and divisional championships and things like that, what are the different barriers that you have to overcome to run for the world versus running for the divisional titles?
Well, certainly, and one of the biggest things that's changed in my life, really, and it's for the better as far as I'm concerned. It's not necessarily for everybody, but time is huge. Money is always huge. If you don't have the money, then you're really going to struggle. And when we first started traveling, we were already tight on money, but fuel was very inexpensive. I lived at home, so what I won was just spending money. You know, if I had really big years where I won a lot of money and I didn't have any bills to pay, so we kept getting after it. And then, you know, we started with like a 76 Suburban and a 24-foot enclosed trailer that was not in very good shape, and we grew it into where we ended up going. But now that I look back, really time off is just huge, because trying to develop myself and make a good solid career for my family and I can there's no way that I can leave what I do. My responsibilities are too great. There's too many people that depend on me, not counting my household. So time is just a huge challenge. I think right now I could kick right back off and go run the divisional level. However, I will say this too: you got to minimize your personal vacations depending on how much time you get. I get 2.5 weeks a year. You can burn that up quickly just running divisionals.
Absolutely.
Right.
Time's a challenge, man.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking just this weekend, you know, a lot of people we know that went to Vegas to the Vegas Fling. I mean, you know, 34 hours one way, 34 hours back, not including any stops and things like that. I mean, you're talking, that's, you know, almost 2 weeks worth of work in a 40-hour week job, you know?
Wow.
Yeah, it's huge. And I mean, that's a bucket list thing for me. A lot of guys that do it at that level, and I'm not saying that they're and I hope they don't take it this way. I'm not saying they're irresponsible. I'm just saying that their responsibilities are different, right? You have some guys that can maybe take the rigs out, and even if not, you might have a family-owned business that, you know, you might really catch it when you get home. These guys are putting in the work regardless, rather it be like myself working for a company like I am or family business. There's still just so much dedication and sacrifice that goes into it. My tip of a cap for anybody east of Texas that made the trip to Vegas. That's a huge travel. It's huge.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely one of my bucket list things as well. And of course, I'm sitting out here in Texas, so I can't remember exactly how long it is, but I know the Arizona is 16 hours. So have to imagine it's going to be a little bit further than that, of course. No, definitely. So next question we got for you here at GBR is you've run a ton of different cars, different types of cars at that, different classes as well. So I'm going to throw the question out first: is what is your favorite class to compete in, if you had to pick one?
The most fun that I have, still to this day, and probably where I'm most competitive at, is 8th mile super comp style quick ride, IHRA style racing. I love the pro tree. I love the quick on the stop, the quick off the stop, and the aggressive finish line driving. That, to me, you get to slow the race up and you can change it up. I was so strong at a lot of those points. I was able to do a lot of things before all the instructional classes and the webinars came out to teach people how to do it. I learned it the hard knocks way. My dad taught me a lot about holding numbers back in the day that he didn't really understand how it evolved like it did. But the quickness of that race and being able to do what I could do in 5.7 seconds, that's my happy spot. Wow. That's where I love to be.
And the thing that a lot of people don't think about, and I never really even thought about till this minute, is you know, when you're talking about 570, you know, people are like, oh man, that's even longer than normal, because normally most dragsters run 470, 450, something like that anymore. It's like, oh, you got a whole nother second to figure out what's going on. Not really, man, because you leave the line and you can kind of figure out what's going on, but then it comes off the stop. Well, this 632 SR20 motor and this 540 over here, they're not running at the same pace. And it's, I mean, what kind of stop time are you talking about versus a quarter mile car?
So I've run it several different ways. I was one of the guys that was fortunate enough I was very, very good with learning ratios and I could shift on time, or I could stop down track. I could do multiple things. So where I probably did the best at was shifting on time, getting it on high gear, getting it on in high gear, and stopping at a moderately high RPM. And in a second, 1.25, I was already back wide open.
Wow.
but it was really stupid the way I had it figured out on track. I could manipulate what I was running very easily. So I could be holding 7 easily at any point in time whenever I wanted to going 570. I would never ever never be going 569 for no unheard of reason.
Right.
I would try to go 570 on a buy run, but that would be the only time.
Right. On top of that,
yeah,
my follow-up question here is favorite car, dragster, door car, make, model, doesn't matter, but that's in my list of questions as well.
My comfort zone is in a dragster. My fun zone is in a door car. My fun zone is wheelies and sitting it down easy. I had a super stock GT car, like an 85 IROC Z Camaro. And when we finally got it all figured out, we had some good AFCO struts and shocks and all this stuff on it where it would sit down and not bounce. There's no better feeling in the world than turning loose at the bottom and that thing just climbing right up and then sitting down and not bouncing. It's awesome.
Wow. Yeah, my Malibu would do about 3 wheelies whenever it came down.
That was what my Camaro did. Eric Southwell over at AFCO Racing Shocks did a great job of getting that out of it. We almost got it too tight because it didn't want to leave as high as I wanted it to. So, but that's the fun of it, man. It's got to have a little action for me. It's not about just riding down the track. I've done that a million times. I want to have a little bit of action somehow, some way.
I agree with that 100%, man. So, let's talk about the heyday of IHRA sportsman racing, because me growing up in the Midwest, I was just telling you before the show started, Jim Simmons always told me about your dad. He always talked about Danny Sr. for my entire life. I mean, I remember Jim Simmons talking about Danny Sr. over and over and over. And IHRA racing is obviously what y'all most of the time would do. And, we were all growing up in the Midwest, we didn't have IHRA. And we always wished that we could go do some IHRA stuff. So let's talk about the heyday of IHRA racing and what made class racing so big of a deal out here in IHRA versus, we were all bracket racing in the Midwest, but everybody stayed class racing here for about an extra 10 years, it seemed like.
So it's a little different in what's known now as Division 9, I guess, in IHRA. It was IHRA, it broke up a good bit over the years. It was like a Division 1 and a Division 2 to start with. It was just a north and a south, and then you ended up with a 4, like in HRA with Texas, and 3 up in Ohio, and then Midwest. And I think what was so awesome, especially for Division 9, I would say, and I think it was probably a similar feeling. I would love to have somebody like Dave Elrod and his family maybe chime in on this, and the Cummins family from Louisiana. But I think what happened was the format was so good for you to be able to do it as, say, a North Carolinian or a South Carolinian, right? You could run Division 9 pretty as inexpensive as you could do anything. You could have 3 really good days of fun. If you couldn't make it there Friday, you could get there Saturday morning. You'd get 2 runs. You had an opportunity to bracket race on Saturday night. You start on Sunday, and you really make a very long, fun, but busy and fun weekend out of it. We would sometimes get there on, I guess, Thursday night. We'd get parked, and we'd get the grill out. And you get really close to these racers when you race with them all the time. And it would be chicken wings, steaks, whatever, cold beer, pork chops. And, it was a gathering. It was a brotherhood. It was, you knew who was coming. If they weren't there, you were on the phone asking them, hey, man, what's going on? Is everything okay? You would loan trailers, engines, and you still do some of this stuff. But I think what would happen after the first points race or 2, right, is kind of like a track championship. You got your 5, 10 or so that really stand out in those first couple of races, and you're like, oh yeah, it's getting ready to get saucy. Something's going to pick up. We got to go to this next race. So you start driving for that, and then all of a sudden, your national events start kicking up, and you're like, hey man, I actually might have a chance at doing something in the world. And I think it was at the time you could run 5 nationals, maybe a little different than NHRA. But it just the camaraderie, the family. Some of it we still have. Some of it will never be the same as it was. the characters, the personality. We still have some of those too. Some of them, man, we've done anything from roll dice. After making our shots, we were rolling dice on the back of the spoiler of Gilmer Henshaw's Super Rod Beretta, and playing cards. And we would go wait in line at the races and take bicycles and put them upside down and spin them to see where the valve stem landed. And obviously the valve stem's heavy; it's going to land at the top. We would bet people that didn't know any better, and oh, here, take your 20 back, But man, just so many awesome things. I don't know. It seems like it was yesterday, but it seems like it was forever ago, if that makes sense.
Yeah, man. And so, class racing obviously lost a lot of participation with the younger crowd and things like that. But then I came out here. See, my dad was a class racer before I was born, and then he went bracket racing, things like that. But I came out here. And I've been trying to convince him forever that we need to just turn my Nova into a class car because it wouldn't take a whole lot to do that.
Right.
But I told him, I said, man, there's CCRA out here. It has a lot of participation. And they have a lot of races. I think they have like 26, 28 races, across just the Carolina area. So it's kind of cool because you can kind of tour around, but you really don't have to tour per se. But I mean, at Kinston last year, they had like 50-something cars. They had many cars of the bracket program almost. One of the coolest races I ever went to because nothing sounds better than a 9,500 RPM small block, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's good to mix those things up. And that was another great thing, right? Not to get too deep in the woods, but, you had your 390 classes, if you will. So you had that, and then you had stock, super stock. You had modified, which was still pretty popular, and then top sportsman and top dragster. Even though there was pro mod, you still kind of had your quick 8 stuff. So, on Saturday night, they would it was a qualified field for top sportsman and top dragster. You'd have a quick 8 shootout, and you're over there in between rounds, in the bracket race trying to figure your throttle stop setup out, and you're like, hey, I'm gonna go check second round of a quick 8 out. It was awesome, man. It was good stuff.
So do you think that class racing could be resurrected? Like now that IHRA has new management and they're trying to push more things, if they were going to do a class type deal, do you think there's still a lot of people that wish they would go back to that?
My hope would be yes. My personal opinion is I don't, my honest opinion is I don't know that there are enough people to do it. I think it would be healthy for the sport if it can become affordable yet profitable. It's got to be profitable for the racer and it's got to be profitable for the track. So, helping a little bit on the management side at the racetrack, I know it costs a lot to put on these events. They don't just open and have it. They have to pay NHRA, IHRA a portion or whatever to have this event. So you've got to figure a way to get some spectators in the gate, and you got to pay the racers. So that is, in my view, is where class racing has struggled. Entry fees, I was fine with the entry fee if we could get some money back. For the longest time, we paid $125 or $135, whatever that was. And, you might win $1,200, but you could get $5,000 in contingency for a points race.
Right.
Well, that quickly cut in half, and then it cut that in half. And then the next thing you know, if you got to win to pay for your weekend, that's different. Wow. So we've got to figure out, and look, Doug Foley and the group with IHRA are a very smart group, and maybe they can figure something out. I would support it if they could come up with something. I think it would be great.
I agree, man. And that's what I've said on several of our past episodes is and I know it's not just as easy as calling people. I understand that. I do some of that type of stuff for a living, making deals and whatnot. But the thing is if you've been somebody who makes deals, you understand there's always a deal that can be made and it just needs to be brought to the right people. And I think a lot of these tracks, I'm talking even just weekly programs with just local tracks like a track like Kinston that we're both very familiar with. There are local businesses around there. You don't need to pay the winner $100. You could give them $20 towards a meal or something like that on the way home. there's a lot of people that would support smaller stuff, but it all adds up, because if you don't need $100 from one person, because if you get 20 from 5 people, that's still $100, you know? So, I mean, it could be something like an oil change from the Jiffy Lube for your wife's car, or something like that, you know?
Something. That's right. And you know, everything is life has changed so much, right? It's really changed. Let's just face it, like since COVID, everything's changed. But it's really changed and evolved in the past 8 to 10 years a lot. And it's going to do it again in another 8 to 10 years. But trying to figure out that balance of, you know, some of the young school, what I do like, we do see more young people participating now, I believe. The junior dragster program, I think, in our area is thriving as much, if not better, than it ever has in the past. I saw a time where there wouldn't be any juniors at the racetrack, and that's tough too, racing for $200 or $300. But these kids are learning so much, man. And my kid, for one, I hate junior dragsters. You guys know that. I don't make any bones about it. They're noisy as hell. They're aggravating. It vibrates. It breaks stuff. I don't like it. But it has been absolutely critical to changing my son's way of thinking, right? Now he has adapted so good to be able to get in a big car. Not even that, learning life lessons. You know, math is involved, geometry, chemicals, all kinds of things are involved in these junior dragsters. So getting those young people to the racetrack, not just for pro racing, but for sportsman racing, what we do, we need that grassroots. We got to have it.
I agree, man. That's where I came from. I was one of the first people to run junior dragsters. In fact, you were talking about you won championships in 1998. That's when I started running junior dragsters. Well, you know, I was talking about Doug Foley. We had them on this show several episodes back, and the first thing I told Doug, I don't know if it was on the show or not, but I did tell Doug, I said, why can't we run four-wheeler motors in junior dragsters? You go get a crashed four-wheeler. There's four-wheelers out here like crazy. Get a Can-Am motor or something like that. You could put that motor in a junior dragster, especially one of the automatic ones, doesn't have a transmission, just belt drive deal. You could put that in a junior dragster, and you could gear it to where you could run that motor that entire junior dragster racer's career and never work on it. And it would be quiet. You would have mufflers for it. You could go to the dealership and get parts. Like, it would be so much easier. And truth be told, it's because, you know, I got an 8-month-old kid. So we got about 6-8 years to figure this out. So but that's my plan.
That's right. It's probably
our buddy Adam Booyah. I already talked to him about it. I said, you think we can do this? Because, you know, he's a good welder. He said, yeah, we can figure that out. I said, cool. So
yeah, you know, the junior dragster stuff, which is, it's been neat to watch it evolve too. But, you know, that price, the entry level is not what it was at one time. And that does concern me a little bit, not because I don't think an older car can compete. I do think an older car can compete, but I do think that the mindset is kind of like the kid that wears the Bobo shoes. You know, nobody wants to wear that. Somebody's going to make fun of me. I don't want my car to have the old centerline wheels on it because somebody's going to say something. Doesn't matter if you win or lose. So a lot of fad stuff comes into play with that, but still love the junior dragster side of it. But it's important we keep them involved.
It's just like anything else in life too. I always like to, I don't know why, but I've always liked to see the old beat up 1980s car that the old man's running with centerline wheels beat all these $100,000 race cars. I love that.
Well, you know, we talk about things changing, right? I remember my first 468. It had Scott Duggins built it, Par Racing engines, and actually it was a 477 steel heads. We're talking, I thought I was the king of the world. And you got a 477. They're like, what kind of El Camino street car does that go in? You know, you can't have no 477. I'm like, man, but you know, that car was just as freaking deadly. I'm not going to say that they're not a little better now, but for it being 20 years ago, that car, I would like to think that if I had the converter technology and the carburetor technology on that same setup, that it would do the same thing.
Wow.
Yeah, they will, man. I mean, my white car just had that 468 in it. There's tons of people don't believe me, but I mean, you saw that car, it went 550 at Kinston. I mean, I don't know. I think people have got, they've got away from the fact of understanding efficiency in motors and volumetric efficiency type stuff. I mean, that motor was nothing special, but everything that was in it, it liked, and it just worked together.
Well, a prime example is that Monza. It's a 79 Monza. It's got 9-inch Mickey Thompson Pro Bracket radials on it. It does have a 9-inch Ford in it. Mosier Engineering did all that stuff. Tim Irwin worked on it himself up there. So it's still just a Monza with a 355, cheapest aluminum heads you could ever buy ever. And it's got a 650 ATM Innovations alcohol carburetor on it. My kid made 3 runs back to back to back, and it went 652.9, 653.0, 653.0. Wow. And that thing don't have a clue what technology is. I mean, it's got the old gold box and 2 steps, and it's a wiring nightmare, right? So it's not a leading edge car, but it's great.
Right.
I look forward to, speaking of what you were saying, I want to put that thing in a winter circle somewhere before he starts driving, because I'm not going to hear the end of it if he does. So,
right.
Better stick it in there then. It's about that time, guys. About that time, about halfway point here. So we're gonna give a little bit of airtime to the marketing partners we have here at Going Bracket Racing. Make sure to go ahead and share the stream, like the stream, leave a comment. We'll do our best to throw it in with Danny Waters here on this stream today. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back to you in about 3 minutes. Hang in there.
BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts are able to provide you with whatever you desire to enhance your drag racing operation. Items like safety belt magnets, nitrous bottle holders, and even quick-release delay box mounts are able to be obtained from BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts. Have a look at top-selling items such as helmet hooks and steering wheel hooks, which are proven to make it easier to maneuver throughout your race car. You can contact BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts at telephone number 765-729-1177.
TSR Racing Products has everything you need to make your Power Glide Turbo 350, Turbo 400, and 727 transmissions the best they can be on the street or at the track. With exceptional products, customer service, and over 30 years of experience, TSR Racing Products is always available to help their customers with any of their transmission needs. In-house machining ensures you only receive the best products from TSR Racing. Visit TSR Racing Products at tsr-racing.com or give them a call at 800-394-5889.
Unleash your horsepower with Proform Super Street aluminum roller rockers. Utilize the latest cutting-edge manufacturing and design processes. The dual contoured body design allows for more rigidity with a greater strength-to-weight ratio, increasing engine power. Super Street aluminum roller rockers are available for a variety of applications and specs for Chevy, GM, and Ford, including pedestal mount, as well as a Chrysler shaft mount style rockers. On the strip or the street, Proform has you covered.
All right. Welcome back. Thanks for being with us here on Going Bracket Racing. This episode brought to you by Proform Parts, BRG 3D printed motorsport parts, Crew Chief Pro, Syntex Printing, TSR Racing Transmissions, Ken Jones Performance Parts, Team 14 Motorsports, Chance Performance. We thank you guys, not to leave out Old Driven Racing Oil as well. We thank you guys for being partners with us and keeping the lights on over here at the old Going Bracket Racing. So let's get back into it with Danny Waters Jr. We're going to go into a question we were kind of talking about during the commercial break there. How did partnering with Mosier Engineering affect your racing program? We'll kind of jump into that whole conversation as a whole.
So Moser Engineering came in at a really just crucial time for my racing program. You guys may or may not know this, but so when I first started racing, we really didn't have any help other than some product help. My dad formed a relationship with a couple of guys, a North Carolina-based company at the time, which was Standback headache powders. So my dad had the idea to put this headache powder group on the car for free. He was like, let's put it on there. They had a funny car. And he was like, we don't want to interfere with the funny car deal because he's doing a great job, but we think maybe we could help you on a local level. So as it worked out, we put it on there. And then at the end of 97, I signed a deal with Standback headache powders. So At the time, all of my cars, as long as I could remember, had Mosier Engineering axles. And I'm going back a little bit to preface where we're going and how it worked with Mosier. So they had a Mosier Axle Mania. I think the first ever one was 97, 98 season, 98, 98, 98, 99 seasons, what it was. Well, as fate would have it, I runnered up the very first one. It paid $22,500 to win, and it was awesome. Well, I had to run a guy named Todd Comer in the finals, and I gave it back $5,000, much like my weekend this past weekend. Picking up my old ways, right? I get it back $5,000, and I take my licking. We split the money. It was a great payday, most I had ever won in one sitting, other than a national event. It was awesome. So John Bennett with Mosier Engineering hands me his business card. And you got to remember, too, at the time, Rob Mosier was racing. Rob was racing a Pontiac Trans Am in 890. So these weekends that we're enjoying all these Pro-Ams and these national events, a lot of them Rob is at. Rob is Greg and Marianne Mosier, owners of Mosier Engineering at the time, were just all amazing people. I wish the whole world had a chance to meet them. But Rob and Susan starting a young family and racing, and I was just doing really good. But we got to spend a lot of time together in the pits. So it wasn't about product or a deal. It had nothing to do with that whatsoever. I was fortunate enough that I went to the final with their product that we purchased, and it was appreciated, right? So I continue on to race with standback headache powders. Through this transitional time, standback changed. It was sold. It was sold to Block Drug Company, and then another company bought standback. So my deal was shaky every year, and I was like, gosh, man, if I lose this deal, D-Dub's going to have to get a job. D-Dub can't just race anymore. I got to figure this out. I don't want a job. I don't want to do that. So anyway, at the time, my mom had a little restaurant, and I would do anything from wait tables to wash dishes and then go racing. And my dad had a little car lot. We'd sell cars. And so anyway, 04, I think, was my last year with standback. So 05, I raced on my own. Was pretty lucky throughout that year. I won a national I think it was pretty early on. I had beat Troy Williams Jr. in the finals. We had a great race, and that gave me some money, so I was able to go on. And then when I got into 06, it was tight. It was really, really tight. So I had a 04 Worthy monoshock car. Eddie Holland had did a paint scheme for it. It was just beautiful. It was black and silver and all these colors. Never dreamed I'd have anything like it. Matter of fact, I bought that car from the Cummins brothers. Huh. It was Mosier Colors when I bought it. We scraped the paint off of it, custom painted it. 06, right, comes up. In 2006, I decided I'm going to get married, right? I had asked my wife, Lindsay, we've been married 16 years, going on 17 this year. Asked her to marry me. And we start looking at dates, and lo and behold, the weekend we want to get married, Kinston has an IHRA Pro-Am race. So I'm like, well, let's just do it. And, the Cumminses were here, Troy Williams Jr., all my buddies got Kenny Martin and his sons, Tucker, and everybody got to come. Jim Harrington was at my wedding. The shoe made it to he sang at my wedding, which was just awesome. So anyway, I had sent these little invitations out to all my people. I had this email, I was pretty good at emailing at the time. I'd email my sponsors and my people, say, hey guys, I'm getting married. Because sponsors would come to races at the time. Holly had a trailer that came to the races, and I invited the Mosier guys. I said, hey man, y'all want to come? Maybe we can set up a display or whatever. Come on out, and I'm getting married. We'll have a hell of a time, and we'll race. So Saturday of the Pro-Am, we go out. I make my 2 little quick rod hits, and I get a phone call from John Bennett. Well, actually, I'm going to back up like 4 months from that, okay? So forget the wedding day. Back up 4 months. My Worthy car is going through the traps, and I'm getting off the gas, and it's like, I'm getting a rear end roar. Okay. So I'm like, crap, this ain't good. I'm going to have a gear pretty soon. So I called John Bennett up, my guy at Mosier. I said, John, got an issue. My rear end's roaring. He said, give me the details on it. And I told him, I said, I'm going to order a gear, but I'd like a price on a center section because I'd love to be able to swap the whole thing out, right? And without having to change the gear and stuff. He said, okay, this was like on Wednesday. Well, that following Monday, I get home from work. I pull up to I lived in a single wide, 14 by 80 single wide, my wife and I behind on my mom and dad's property. I pull up and there's this big ass black box on my back porch. And I'm like, what is that? I go up and it's got Moser on it. I was like, oh man, he sent me a center section and I ain't going to be able to pay for it. You know, I'm like, I am screwed. So and I called John. I said, John, man, I think you misunderstood me. I needed a gear, but I wanted a price of center section. He said, look at that. He said, the packing slip on it. I said, yeah, I cut it off there. He said, you see a total on it? I looked at it and I said, I don't see anything. It's got zeros. He said, well, that's what you owe. He said, you have bought all your axles from us and all your part. You've been loyal to us since that night I handed you a card in the winter circle. He said, I appreciate it. So you got to look at that. That's an 8-year span, right? That we used their stuff and they appreciated it. That was the first thing I had ever gotten from Mosier at all. And I was so thankful and appreciative. And so John, fast forward to my wedding date, this IHRA Pro-Am. I'm sitting here with my shiny, worthy car with this nice paint job. John Bennett calls me. He says, hey, man. I was like, what's up, buddy? He said, it's about time to go get married, huh? I was like, yeah, I'm getting ready to load things up, and we're going to go get married. And he says, well, I couldn't make it to your wedding. He said, but I got your gift for you. I said, okay. He said, I didn't get to send it to you, so I'm going to have to give it to you over the phone, and I won't ever forget it. He said, first of all, I guess it's a question. He said, would you be interested in what would it take to put a big M on the side of your race car and paint it Mosier Engineering colors? And I was like, hell yeah, not much, you know. So we took off, and that was the birth of the Mosier Engineering sponsorship team partnership, whatever you want to call it. That was really the birth date of it right then. So we signed a contract, and we've been partners ever since. It's just an amazing thing to be a part of.
Wow.
And the best part about Mosier too is that they have a cool color scheme, so you don't have to paint it ugly colors or anything. So that's worth it in itself.
I love it.
Awesome too. It's
I love it. They did an awesome job with that, you know, and they've changed it. The old logo used to be cool too, with the flag, you know, the old checker flag behind it with the ME. And when they changed it, I was like, ooh, I like the big M, you know. And it was just so what we ended up doing at the end of 2006, we took that same car back to Ronnie Cruz in Jacksonville, North Carolina, scraped all the paint he put on it off of it, and painted it right back like it was when I bought it from the Cummins.
Well, at least he had a decent idea in his head what it was supposed to look like. He knew the colors.
He knew it exactly. Yeah, he had it down pat. So it was awesome stuff, man.
So, Danny, since you've had a high level of involvement with the sanctioning bodies in general, I mean, I think your dad was an IHRA official for a lot of years too. Where do you see the sport going now that we have 3 sanctioning bodies? Well, I guess 4 if you include AHRA now, because Northeast is AHRA, right?
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with the AHRA. I read a little bit here and there when it comes out. I'm kind of like you guys. I like to read anything that comes out because information is information. It could be good or bad. You just what you use it for that makes it good or bad. So I'm not going to say that it's bad. I'm not worried or scared about it, right? I know some people have that concern. I feel like, and I'm not saying this because my dad works for NHRA. I'm saying it because of what I see as a racer that's been involved since I was a kid. I think NHRA is the mainstay. I don't think that they're in financial trouble with the things that people come up and say. You know, it's kind of like people talking about SFG. You can talk about it if you want to. The fact of the matter is his doors are still open and he's still serving racers, right? So same thing with NHRA. I do wish NHRA, and I have never really, well, let me take that back. I was getting ready to say I've never really been treated bad at an NHRA race, but I have, and I won't go into that. Yeah. But I wish that there was more of a family feel, and a lot of the races I have been to, I have gotten that. So I don't want to say that that's the case all the time, and that's not specific to Division II. I've had some really great times in Division III also. I just think as a whole is what I mean, as a blanket statement. WDRA has great potential. I don't know what that's going to look like as they move forward. I don't think they want it to look like NHRA or IHRA. I think they want it to look like WDRA. Anything you have Royce Miller involved in has to give you some sense of comfort. That doesn't make it all right. So I think that's the good thing in having options. I do think that it's a good thing with IHRA also rekindling. I wish forever that it had stayed. I didn't like it when they changed the format to a race your way or one race world championship. I didn't like that, but it still was there and it was still fun. And I don't know. I don't think it's bad to have options. You know, it's like Burger King and McDonald's and Wendy's. I wouldn't want just one of them. I want all three of them. Yeah. It's just a matter of let everybody find their niche and let's go racing, man. Let's quit. Let's don't bash everybody. Let's race.
Right. And that's exactly what I've said 1,000 times is just, I just wish everybody would be on the same team, because realistically, if you look at it, drag racing is the easiest thing to get in as far as all other motorsports go, because if you want to, you can go drag racing on one set of tires a year. You can buy some cheap car. Nick Hastings probably has the cheapest, winningest race car of all time in drag racing as far as the amount of money versus the amount of money spent versus won. But I mean, that round track racing, what we spend in, a month racing, they'll spend that on tires in 1 week. It's just so much easier for everybody to get in to drag racing. And if everybody would just get on the same team, we could grow the sport like crazy overnight, I feel like.
I feel like I'm going to wrinkle it a little bit with my next question. It's basically along the same line of the sanctioning body, I'm be honest, but we've got several spectacles even when it comes to big money bracket racing right now. I mean, there's just a lot going on in the big money bracket racing scene, from everybody going west, like Casey said at the beginning of the show, 30-something hours to drive out there, to let's watch what happens at Galat when Pete Biondo and the Spring Fling crew come out to Carolina and just pack the house, because I'm forecasting a lot of the same what happened in Vegas to what's going to happen in Galat, just like everybody else. Can the sanctioning body even compete with the big money promoters of the bracket racing scene right now? And kind of following that up with is seemingly these kids are getting out of juniors and they're not going stock and super stock and class racing, man. They're going bracket racing. Either they're going to stay on the bottom and wreak havoc on everybody off the top, because that's what seems to be happening, or they're going to come top racing because it's already there for them. What do you think, Danny? Do they have a chance with the sanctioning bodies and the big money programs?
I don't, in my opinion, I think the promoters the reputable promoters are very good at what they do. Most of them are racers. Not all of them are, but they're customer focused. It's much like a local track. You've got to be customer focused, and you got to do the preparation work. You got to put it in and get it out. I do not think that if NHRA, IHRA, WDRA, AHRA, anybody put on 350s next week, that they'd have 100 cars. It is not that personal level of what we feel as an individual is not there. I support Britt Cummins' races. I support Kyle's races. I support Pete's races. They deliver something different. The Folk Million is awesome. I love that race. Probably one of the biggest stage, or the best, most exciting stages you'll ever race on. The OG Million is just something like no other. But that tie of having those individuals is where I think it's almost like having a corporate person versus an individual. That it's not going to work, I don't think.
Right. Do you think it's because it's like you just said, pretty much you're supporting a person, an individual. You're not supporting a corporation. And do you think that's part of it, just because a lot of us are grassroots type guys? A lot of us work for either ourselves or small businesses, things like that. And we would rather see the people get the money, the Galen Rollisons, the Kyle Rileys, the Peter Biondos, the Britt Cummings, on and on and on.
Yeah, I think so. And I think so. Another piece of that is that when you roll into the pit area, we've all heard the stories of parking in the mud and I don't care and we're going to leave you here and we'll run you Monday or whatever your scenario was. Everybody is in. If you're in a one class top ET deal or if you're in a one payout 50 grander, everybody runs the same class.
Right.
Your run sticker might be a different color, but you're all the same class. So every person theoretically should be treated equally. I realize that some people probably get treated a little differently, but that's no different than anything. I'm not taking up for anybody on that. It's like a guy that comes to a local gas station every other day and gets gas versus the guy that travels in from out of town. He's probably going to be treated just a little different because you know him better.
Right.
That I don't think that's impartiality. I think that's just humanity. I think that's the way it works. Yep. But yeah, I think promoters have a place in what we do. I hope that they stay successful. I hope they stay clean and do what they say they're going to do. And keep us a place to go and keep tracks healthy.
I'm actually going to bring this one in too. I actually feel like it's a decent comment/question here from Tom Worthington, similar to what we're talking about now, where he says the big money events have siphoned off much of the local bracket racing. So I guess all of us can take a shot at that one, in my opinion, and I'm going to start here. I feel like there's always a place for local bracket racing. I take my cue from Ardmore Dragway here, and where I've spent a few weeks out. I don't get out as much. Sundays are just my best day to race. I got a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. And yeah, I'm only running for $1,000, right? But it's somewhere to go. And on the other side of that, there's always a awesome family to meet that's pitted on one side and the other. So I agree and kind of disagree, Tom, at the same time. What are your guys' thoughts on if big money events are kind of taking away the local bracket racing scene at the same time?
You want to go first, Case?
Yeah, I'll go ahead, man, because I was actually just talking about this with Eric Amon, who, by the way, Eric, I know you're going to watch this at some point, and you really hurt my feelings this weekend by taking both my entries away from me. I missed the tree 2 times, and it was against Eric both times. And you know, Danny, you can't do that. Not against him. So, but I was just talking to him about that, and I said, man, to be honest with you, I said, I don't need to be racing for $5,000 every single weekend. Like, I really enjoy going to Kinston where you can double enter for $125 and run for $3,000. I like that deal. I like how you can, the thing I do like, and everybody can say what they want about Kinston, when you start racing at Kinston, as long as there's not an oil down, we're racing. Yeah. We're not dragging our feet, we're racing. Yeah. So you can get out there, you can, if you have young kids like George and I do, I know, Danny, your kid's not necessarily old, but he's not young, same like that. But the fact of the matter is, you got things you got to do in the morning and get some stuff done. Well, Kinston, a place like that, you can go there, start racing at maybe like 11, 12 o'clock, and you can still be home at midnight a lot of times as long as everything goes, according to plan. So, yeah, I would agree with Tom in the essence that it seems like it has siphoned off some of it, but I do agree with George also saying that there's always going to be a place for local racing, because the bottom line is the average guy can't afford to spend $1,000 every single week to go racing.
Right. Yeah. So to touch on Tom's point, and I see where Tom is coming from. And first of all, I've known of Tom for a very long time. Always thought a lot of him, love his car. If you guys don't know what he's got a 67 Camaro. It's a big block car. It's got rally wheels on it. Looks like you could go drive it right now to McDonald's. Wow. He puts a set of slicks on it. I think it runs maybe mid sevens. Or maybe low to mid sevens. Great car. I love it. And I'm not going to share every single feeling of Tom because I don't know all of them, but I do know the premise of his thoughts, right? he was not a particular fan of buybacks, and I understand that completely. And I'm not a fan of them in the aspect of it is a pain in the tail. If you win, you win. You lose, you lose. But everything's changed so much. The expense is so high. The racetrack's got to have that option of revenue. The next piece of it is double entries, hit and miss. I think you should. It's hard to double unless you got a certain amount, right, Casey? I mean, you got to have 40 or 50 cars, or you're going to play hell trying to double.
Right.
So I think probably Tom is a bottom bulb racer. I love the way he races. I think it would be awesome. And so, Casey, have you been to Coastal Plains for one of the Tuesday night races?
I haven't. If I lived 30 minutes closer, I would be there at every Tuesday night race.
I highly recommend doing that. I think that probably is the feel more of what Tom and racers that have that same mindset and goal are looking maybe. Even though they have buybacks, it's not a whole lot of money. I think it's $1,200 in top and $800 in foot brake. But it's, you get there at 6 o'clock, you're done at 10:30. And you just get it on. You race and you roll out. It's low key. It doesn't matter if you win. You can get the 4 cars and split and pay for your night. Maybe put a little bit in your pocket and go home. I see the need for that too. That's kind of relative to what we're talking about of the entry level type bracket.
Absolutely, race. I was going to say that. Mm-hmm.
So I agree totally with both sides. I don't think necessarily that big money has killed it. Big money bracket racing. I think money in general has affected bracket racing.
Well, and do you think that it's more so not necessarily that it's siphoned it off? Do you think that as things has got expensive and as people like Fletcher told us that his rig takes like $1 every mile or something to run, do you think people have got such big stuff where it just makes more sense rather than racing every single weekend like everybody used to, that they just go racing once a month? Because you do, like the Spring Fling, they race Tuesday through Saturday. I mean, you race more, and then you just go once a month.
Yeah, I think in some cases we as racers have priced ourselves up a little bit. I love my RV, I love my trailer, I love those things, but ultimately I could race a whole lot more if I had a pickup. And I do have a pickup truck and an open trailer. We can throw those things on there, but who wants to go out and sweat? And you don't. Who wants to get a hotel? So it's give and take, right? I'm not saying what's right and what's wrong. I'm just saying that there's different levels of it. If I decide that, and I did it, I built a brand new race day car in 2015. Beautiful car. Loved it. It was a great working car, but I was almost sick to my stomach for what I spent. Brett Nesbitt, one of the best in the business, built me an all aluminum 615 and had Brodix BRX heads, the best of the best, aluminum block. I mean, it was everything, and it was everything I'd ever dreamed of having. And then when I got it, I was like, "Oh my God, what have I done?" So I think we can really price ourselves out of having fun very, very quickly if we don't watch it.
I agree, man. I want to turn the tables here because I know this is something you'll want to talk about anyway, but it's something that I want to know, and I know George wants to know as well. Tell us a little bit about what it's like to get your son Creighton involved in racing and, what it's like to teach somebody how to race and versus doing it yourself. And, we know the Junior Dragster fiasco, but there's also a lot of fun involved with it too.
Oh, yeah. So I was really gung-ho, right? He's 15. He'll be 16 in December. By the way, if WDRA, IHRA, NHRA, if any of you guys watch this, please call me, email me, message you guys, get my information. I want to know when he can legally drive in competition. I have reached out. I've not gotten an answer yet. If he cannot race in competition until he's 16, that's what we're going to do. If he can race, we're going to race him in the next couple of months. I want him to get a few more laps. Very safe. I'd rather go down beside him than a lot of folks already. I just want him to have a little more speed.
I agree.
So bouncing back, right? I was all about putting my kid in a race car. He was young and thought he wanted to do it too. When he turned 5 years old, we had bought him a junior dragster. It was an older car, but it was a former track champion car. It was clean. It was everything I thought we needed to get him going. We put him in it. He hated it. He hated it. It shook and it was rough. And of course, it was too small at that time for me to ride down the track in, but it rode like 1190s. And it just, he made maybe 5 passes in it. And he was like, Dad, I'm not interested. So we let it sit in the shop for a couple of years, and we finally decided, like, look, if you're not going to keep this thing, let's let another kid, let's let them enjoy it. So we sold it. And we went several years. I think he was 10 before he got back in a junior. We bought him a used Mike Boss car, 890 car, and had some stagger in the front wheels. He couldn't hit the tree quite right. And then we bought him the car he ended up keeping for several years. And, man, he took off like a banshee. When it hit, it's like somebody flipped a switch, and that's when he really got hungry. And now he's hungry. He's hungry to get in a race car right now. We did recently sell the junior. He's 5'9", 190 pounds. We moved the pedals and stuff. It was a 22-inch cage, which is big for a junior. Yeah. But every time he tried to bump in, his knees were up by the steering wheel, and he'd hit the gas, right, and engage the clutch. So, wow. But anyway, that was a big step for us. As bad as I hated that junior, it has been it did take me out of my car some. It did bring me in off the road traveling, which has been a blessing for my family and I, and work too. I was really, man, doing this stuff for so long. I traveled a lot. You guys got to think about this. 2.5 decades, just about. I was on the road by myself, and I would work all day, leave and drive all night, no sleep to get teched in and qualify and race, and then I would drive all the way back home and be to work on Monday morning. So it all worked great for me to be able to do that. But to see him want to get in a big car, that was kind of my concern. I've never forced him to do any of it, right? I will never do that. If he tells me he wants to quit racing tomorrow, he can quit. But right now, that is not going to work. He would drop kick me if something happened. I told him we were selling stuff. But that has given me more heart and more drive to get back in the car and try to be competitive. I'm the guy. I don't like to go racing by myself. I'm not motivated by me. Like racing with the Cumminses when we were coming up, that we drove each other. And racing with Chad Duke, Henry Dale, some of my really good friends, those are the people that motivate me. Now having him do that, he's like, hey, see, like, let go. Let's get this thing going. You know what you're holding. You know what you got to do. He knows so much to be a 15-year-old. I think his potential is just astronomical, which I think is what we see in these young kids now. Corey Galletti, the things that he's capable of doing, Casey Pesnell, and I could name 30. Lauren Edwards, look at her. She's done an amazing job off the bottom. Just a lot of really great racers that come out of these juniors. And for him to be dedicated to it like it is, man, I'm excited. I love it.
Heard that. Well, I heard that. So definitely, I think he's in here too. I think I see him in here commenting. He's watching you. I think so. You got that going for you too. I think
he's supposed to be at football practice.
Is he at football? Well, yeah, maybe it's not him. It's Cray H2O, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's him.
That's him. He watching you.
Well, you better find out. Look, this is no kidding. Last night, right? My dad's got a 502 crate motor we're putting in his Camaro. The world might not know that yet, but that's coming together. So we were getting everything laid out. We're getting ready to drop that. It's at my shop, so we're getting ready to put the 502 crate motor in it. And we unloaded his Monza to put my dragster in the trailer to go to Galot. Well, the fuel pump didn't sound quite right. Well, I got looking at it, and it had a regular Holley fuel pump. That alcohol is probably just
ate it
up.
Yep.
So luckily for me, I had a black billet pump on the shelf that I forgot I had. And I was like, oh, crap, that's awesome. I said, no worries. We can put this fuel pump on. Well, last night we're done messing with my dad's car. And he's like, we can put that fuel pump on my car? I was like, it's Monday night. What do you need? He's like, and he was depressed. And I was like, I tell you what, we're going to put this fuel pump on. And we did before we came in last night. We plumbed a few things and so his car is back race ready on Monday night. We're ready to go.
I heard that. So our buddy Dylan Champion mentioned you have a story about your shoes from this weekend. What's he talking about?
All right, so this is the crazy stuff. I've had, when you think you've had everything happen in a race car, you think you've had it all, right? I've had everything from, when you used to run the micro switches, Casey, and George, you push the button, right, and it was good. Well, I had one of those all the way in New Hampshire. I had a guy that had a big block Chevrolet Chevelle with small tires, couldn't even get down the track. I set the button and I rolled through the lights. It busted the back of the button. So I'm thinking I've done every way you can lose. I think I've done that. So I have Sunday. Was it Sunday or Saturday? I can't remember which day it was. I had to run RV3, Robert Vogler III. If you don't know him, type his car number in. He's awesome. He's a great young man. His family is awesome, but RV3 is a driving machine. I think he got down to 5 or something. He had 2 in at 12 on Saturday. I think he got 1 down to 6, or maybe deeper. But anyway.
Were those the trucks?
No, that was the Race Tech car park right across from me.
Okay, I know who you're talking about then.
Yeah,
because I saw him kept going by every time.
Yeah, oh man, he's a machine, but he's such a nice young man. He's awesome kid. You get a chance to meet him, you should do so. So anyway, I got to run RV3. I know he's on a heater. This was Sunday. I ran him Sunday morning. Me, I'm not a very tall guy, right? I'm 5'8", and I got this fat foot. I wear like a tent, but I got to wear a wide because my foot's just fat. And I never tie my shoes real tight because I just can't stand it. So running the dragster, probably should have been wearing racing shoes to start with. I roll out there and got my Skechers or whatever. I get Vogler, and me, Sunday, I'm trying to be a hero. I'm holding between 5 and 6 all day, basically. I roll up, and Vogler's 3. I'm 15, and I'm like, I got to get rid of a little bit to see where I'm at. So I rip it. And then I'm like, I give it one more and my damn shoe comes off. And it's pinned all up between the little bracket on the gas pedal. And I'm like, oh, crap. So I just abort. It doesn't matter.
You can't get back on the gas.
3 going. Yeah, he's 3 going dead on. I'm wasting gas anyway, taking my damn shoes off. Yeah. And anyway, I'm 15 and like 2 over or something. So, and to finish out my day, I come back like 3rd round and I'm 1 and get behind 001, and then I'm 10 again and get behind 002. So here I am on going bracket racing on a Tuesday night. So.
Hey man, I've had that. I haven't had the shoe come off, but I did have a time at Loose Rocker where I kicked it one more time and I hit the transmission tunnel, and I wasn't sure if I was wide open or not. So I kicked it one more time, and I was like, well, this is great. And I ended up about what I figured that was behind. And I mean, it would have been to 4 zeros probably. I don't know if I would have won or not, but I was like, man, you got to be kidding me. And I came back, and guess who was the first person to see me? Dylan. What are you doing?
He catches all the candid moments, man. He's that guy.
Yeah. Hey, one time I was so mad, I gave it back like 0004, and I'd given it back all weekend, and I'd see Dylan, and I got headlights on my Nova, and it's nighttime, and first thing I see is Dylan standing in front of Brandon's trailer like this. And I went and I loaded it straight in the trailer, strapped it down. I didn't even say bye to him. I just went home. I was like, I don't need to hear him right now.
Yeah, he's hard to miss, man. He's got the down, looks like
once he puts his hands in that. Yeah, once he puts his hands in the air, he's 15 feet tall.
Jeez.
He's that guy. He's that guy. I love Dylan, though. He's a great dude, man. A lot of great people we get to race with, Case.
Yeah, man, definitely. That's most of the fun about it, because you're not going to win every single weekend, not these days. But Danny, man, I can't tell you how much we appreciate you being on this show with us, but I want to give you the opportunity. I know you got a whole bunch of people to thank. Who do you want to thank before you get off here?
Oh, man, the list is it really is huge. I do want to thank my wife and my son. I'm in such a better place as an individual, just having them in my life and having the support system that I have. My mom and my dad, my sister, my brother-in-law, just my family is phenomenal. Everybody's got to have a good support system. My family is just second to none. Certainly when it comes to the racing side of things, Mosier Engineering, I wouldn't be sitting here right now probably had it not be for them. I don't know where my racing career would have went, because it was really at a pretty tough time. they've stuck with me through a ton of things, and I just love Mosier Engineering. Rob, Kip, Tim Irwin, which is retired, Rocky Van Note, Jeff Anderson, all the guys at Mosier, every person, all the way down to the shipping department. If you ever get up to Portland, Indiana, it's a clean facility. Go and let them take you on a tour. You'll love it. I have to also thank Angela Neely and the group over at ATM Innovations Carburetors. They have been doing our carburetors. I don't know if many people know this, but they were formerly Quick Fuel Technology. When they sold out, they formed their own business. A lot of years of experience. Mr. Marvin Benoit has been a great person to race with and learn from over the years. So Doug Cross and Calvin, all the folks, and Tim at the shop at ATM nonstop. Casey, that they'll pick up the phone and over the weekend and help you if they can, and that's good support system to have. FTI Performance, also Greg Samuel, Troy Williams Jr., Gary Williams, the FTI on-site crew. Been a part of FTI now since Troy kind of joined the team. Sold a lot of transmissions and converters over the years, and they keep me going. I to this day, I have not broke an FTI converter ever. Wow. That is a honest plug for me, and I love that fact. And I hope that I might break one this weekend if I do. If I do, I'm due for it. So Brett Nesbitt and all the team at Nesbitt Performance Engines, second to none. Been running Nesbitt power since 2008. Prior to that, ran Par Racing Engine, Scott Duggins and the gang. I would also like to thank them, man. I mean, I certainly wouldn't have got to the point that I got to without the great people over in Spartanburg, South Carolina. So House of Payne Performance, Mark Payne is a racer, just like we are. Phenomenal. You can call him. He can work on your stuff at the track. Alternators, starters, the Big Dog 139 was just the best thing since sliced bread. And it's on our cars, and we love it. So thanks to him so much. Sandy Bottom Bandits is somebody that came on new this year. If you don't know what they are, they make rubs for seasoning for meats and stuff. Sandy Bottom Bandits, they're awesome. All kinds of different flavors. Some of them are spicy, not so much on the other side. Kind of a local thing, but I think you can order them online too. So Sandy Bottom Bandits is awesome stuff. Mickey Thompson Tires. I want to do a shout out real quick because I got called out this week by Kevin Crawford.
Uh-oh.
He said not to forget to give Hoosier Racing Tire a shout out. So Hoosier Racing Tires, right? My dad got on a Hoosier deal in 1991. I've been a Hoosier guy all the way up through 2013, I think, is when I made the swap. Made the swap because I honestly believed at the time the Little Bubba was the best dragster tire, period.
Hands down.
And Tom Kundrick and Chris Eisen, all the guys at Mickey Thompson put the squeeze on me, and I was in at No Problem Raceway in Louisiana when I made the switch, and I've been there ever since. I've not turned back. So I want to give a shout out to Mickey Thompson, but I will also give equal due to Hoosier Racing Tire. I am not a hater. I'm an appreciator. So thanks to both companies for doing what they've done for me. Give another shout out to FDD Customs, Mike Fuquay, Blake Fuquay. Awesome wheels. We got those on our hot rods now, and we appreciate them too. I'm sure I'm probably forgetting somebody, but we'll just have to catch them next time.
Yeah, you just have to come on back. We get them all back up in there.
Hey, look, we got a lot of stuff we can talk about, man.
Yeah.
We got almost 3 decades stored up in this 6 inches right here. We can.
I heard that.
Hey, man, hopefully you said you're going to the Flame?
I don't know what my schedule's going to look like, to be honest, Casey. I've just got back from being in the mountains for a week. I'm going to the Galot Point race Saturday and Sunday this weekend. I would love to be able to go at least Friday and Saturday, but right now, I don't know if I told you guys, I need to give these guys a shout out to Quality Equipment. We're John Deere dealership group. We have 36 locations. I'm responsible for parts and service at 6 of those branches. So right now, we talked about lawnmowers rolling, right? So I've got that going, and also we've got seed is going in the ground pretty hot and heavy. So right now I got to focus on work. Depends on I hate to miss it because it's an hour and 15 minutes away. So we'll see what the future holds. If it's meant for us to be there, we'll show up.
Sounds good, man. I'll definitely see you there on Saturday. But before we get off here, of course, we got to give our people a shout out here. TSR Racing Products, Champs Performance Parts, BRG 3D printed parts, Syntex Printing out there in Temple, Texas, Driven Racing Oil, Proform Parts, Crew Chief Pro Software. And other than that, George?
Well, I guess we'll see you next Tuesday. Good luck out there for 100K out there at Presco Raceway, by the way. I figured I'd plug that as well. Look forward to hearing more about that for next Tuesday's stream. Take it easy. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.